All right, I think we're live. I think I'm gonna wait till something comes up on YouTube, which is where I plan to monitor everything. I don't know if it thinks we're live or if I set up something wrong, so I may just be talking to myself. Manage, no. If I go back to stream, what if I go to my channel? I would just start talking about what the stream is, but I don't know if anybody is. Oh, okay. I think we are indeed live. I'm gonna come on just to check and make sure. I would just start talking about what the stream is, but I don't know if anybody is. All right, that's my voice. Okay, we're good, I guess. So hey everyone, Christopher Fraser here, and welcome to my first live stream on here for Blender visual effects tutorials and stuff. I don't know how long this is gonna go. Maybe only like an hour. Maybe 2-ish hours. I don't plan on it being crazy long, but I think we're going to try to get through what we can get through. I do have a bit of a time limit, but I think I've got plenty of time, so I think we'll be good. You might notice that we have Octane open, which is not exactly the focus, but I just figured it'd be interesting. What we're going to be doing is going over compositing, and I'm going to talk about my Advanced Compositing Nodes, which you can get. So this is going to be compositing inside of Blender. I plan to do more stuff in Fusion in the future, but for now, let's just delete the default cube as always. And I think I'm going to go ahead and append. You can't see it right now, but I'm going to, I've got the file view open, and I'm going to append this, which I have ready for Octane. I've got a Star Destroyer that I'm going to import, and maybe also an X-Wing. Yeah, so if we go into render view here. So this, by the way, this version of Octane for Blender you can get for free. They have a free tier of Octane for Blender. There's some limitations on it, like you can only use one GPU, and I think that may be really the only limitation. There's not much, but anyways, we can also delete the light. Right? Is it not using my GPU? It is using my GPU. Okay, good. It's the whatchamacallit, the viewport here is being pretty slow, and I don't really know why. We might have to switch over to, oh, if I bring down the parallel samples, that usually helps a bit. I don't want a lot of parallel samples. Yeah, okay, so that seems to have helped a little bit. And I can also bring that down. That's been very helpful. Okay. If it's doing less pixels, it has to do less work, right? So, okay, we're just going to set up a quick render here because I want to focus on compositing. I really just did this in Octane, partially because I thought it would be interesting, and also because in the future I want to talk about different render engines, so I thought this would be an interesting way to introduce it. So I've used Octane in the past, but not in videos or tutorials or anything. So we change this the same way. We'll just mess with the focal length. Like 100 millimeters is probably good. I'm going to go into solid view while I'm framing this up. That'll probably be better. Yeah, and then I want to go ahead and import or append an X-Wing. Because, an X-Wing and a Star Destroyer, it seems like a pretty standard sort of scene, right? I've got an X-Wing. It's got some stuff that I don't need on it, but I don't really care. And the scaling right now actually is super crazy off. Because that is scaled to 0.1. When I was writing all my assets and everything for like whatever for rendering, I kind of did this thing where I set any big ships like this, cruisers and stuff, I decided I would make those to be a 10th scale. Just because when you're working, oops, what did I just open? I'll figure it out in a minute when it opens, I guess. Oh, Aseprite. Well, so big cruisers and stuff, just because like you're generally not going to be working with you don't want to use really large scales for things. I decided to make them a different scale so that it would be easier to manage some scenes. But, you know, whatever. Apparently it's not always helpful. No. Don't open up Photoshop, please. Photoshop, no. Everything is failing me. No. I'm gonna go. I don't actually know. I'm gonna bring up my stream over here because I can't see. I don't know if I can actually see the live chat or anything. We'll just turn that off. Okay, so I've got my thing. Oh, General Kenobi. Sorry, I couldn't see the chat before, so I see now. Crispy Christian. I know you IRL. Isn't that crazy? You knew that. I don't know why. I didn't need to say that. I didn't need to say that for your information, at least. Okay. We're gonna frame this up a little bit better, and I don't know. We'll just do something kind of interesting. We'll just give it a bit of this angle. It's hard working with such large scenes because everything, you know, everything is so far away. Okay, now if we find where our camera is, I really should have set this scene up beforehand. I kind of shot myself in the foot by waiting until I was live to set up my scene. But okay, we'll just progressively move the X-Wing closer until it's in frame. There we go. And this isn't going to be like necessarily the greatest shot artistically, but you know, it'll look kind of cool, I guess. Hopefully. And maybe we'll just move this Star Destroyer out of the way a bit. I don't know. I don't know what looks cool. I've forgotten how to make things look cool. We'll go back into render view and see how things are looking. Right, and if I go to the shader editor, look at this node tree. That's for one metal material, isn't that fun? All right, so for the world, so regular Blender lights don't work here. So I need to use, I'm gonna need to append something new. I promise we'll get to the compositing part. I know there's not much learning happening here. We're gonna get to that very soon, but first I just need to get my scene set up. So I know Cycles is great, and it's at this point it's probably really not any slower than Octane is. In fact, I think it's probably way faster than Octane, if I'm being real. But it's still a great experience to try out other render engines, even just from a learning perspective, like getting to see some of the features that other people are used to. Because like sometimes you see a feature and you're like, man, I really wish we had that in Blender, and that's how we get to, like, you know, getting those sorts of new features in Blender. So yeah, Octane was actually one of those things for me. And if in the future we'll cover displacement and how great that is. Okay, now we need, yeah, this should be linear. That should be fine because this is going to be handling all that stuff. Okay, great. And then, or no, we want, I can never remember which way this is supposed to go. Make that sRGB and then make this raw. Is that the way? It's like, you got to do this a weird way because like Octane is wanting to do the tone mapping, but so is Blender. So I think this, I just set this to linear and then set this up to be whatever I want it to be. Gosh, why am I having such a hard time with this? I know I really did kind of shoot myself in the foot trying to do like a bunch of stuff that I haven't done on video before. So bear with me as I kind of try to make this work. And we'll adjust the sun position to get some interesting lighting. Okay, I'm kind of starting to figure this out. I also haven't used Octane in a while, so there's an element of relearning that's going on here. And I think gave this a bit of a tint, so I might the X-Wing material I gave it a bit of like a pinkish tint when setting up the material, so I might, there we go. Oh man, why does that look so, do we need to maybe unplug that entirely and then just plug that back in? Is this right? Are we making a good yeah, okay, that's right. That's good. That's fine. All right. Back to here, I guess. And it's like, what's a good angle for the lighting? I think an angle kind of similar to what it was in the beginning. Hey Kevin. Let's see. Why color of your node is gray? All the nodes here are gray because I'm using Octane right now. I'm not using cycles. Yeah, we're just, it's not a permanent thing. I'm just kind of giving it a go, and we're gonna see kind of how this goes. I plan on talking about other render engines more in the future, but for now I just figured it might be interesting. So I think, you know, it may not be my greatest work ever, but it's okay. Now we just have to figure out the tone mapping issue that I was running into before. But if I just turn that off, no, I can't turn that off because of reasons. Okay, I'm gonna let Octane do the tone mapping, so I'll set that to raw, because that way I think we'll get our proper HDR stuff. I'm gonna need to get a sound or something probably for the chat. Can I turn on? I don't know if I can turn on notifications. So sorry if I miss. I'll try to check chat as often as I can, but I might not see messages until a little bit later. Okay. Oh yeah, and there are all these great settings. I forgot about the hot pixel removal stuff. Okay. Okay, I'm kind of starting to get the hang of this. To get the hang of this. The hand of this. So for my display, I actually want Rec 709, but there isn't a Rec 709 option specifically. So sRGB will have to do. Okay, we're gonna give this a render and see if it will work for our purposes. And then I will import the Advanced Compositing Nodes. For anybody kind of just tuning in now or whatever, we're doing a stream on compositing. I'm just kind of setting up the 3D scene right now. So maybe while this is rendering, I'll get a sip of water. And yes, I chose to use Octane because I guess I like making my life hard. Octane is actually quite nice. It makes some really good results. I just haven't used it in a while, so I'm kind of like, I'm a little bit disoriented, and I probably should have just gone with cycles for the render, but whatever. But it is still rendering pretty nice and fast, and I can stop it whenever I think it's at a good point. But you see some of these lights down here, I want to wait till they resolve a little bit better. Really, honestly, I should have waited, or I should have done this before starting the stream, and then we would be, we'd be good. So I might, like, what I could do is, for the video, because I'm gonna upload this as a video later, what I could do is just pretend that I started later on and do like a second intro. So only people watching live now are gonna get to see this super special exclusive bits of content. So I don't know, that's not like a hard decision I've made. Okay, I'll stop the rendering there. Now let's take a look at the compositing. We don't need the timeline, so we'll just close that. Use nodes. And really we only care about the viewer right now. What I'm going to do is add in a glare node and see. Ah, so that's been clamped, it looks like. That's not great. Okay, well, this is not a great start because I think we're going to have to remake the scene in cycles. So let's just quickly put something together. Okay. I know we're already like 15 minutes in. And this is not my ideal situation. You know what? I'm even going to go a step further. Don't tune out now, folks. This is important stuff. I'm going to be able to set up a scene. I promise it's not going to take me 15 minutes. It'll only take me like 2 minutes. I'm opening up Blender 3.0, and then I can use like the asset browser, and I can quickly import some more stuff. It's going to be great. Okay. I'm using Photographer. Don't mind me. We're going to go ahead and append. What do we want to work with? We want to work with a cool spaceship. Let's actually do the Imperial light cruiser from the lighting tutorial that I just did. If you want to see how I got some of the sweet light effects that are in here, like the engine light and the windows and everything. If you want to see how I did some of that, you can go watch my last video. Okay, this is good. We'll just, oops, get a good rear angle because I want to see those nice engines. And we'll set up our light a bit better. So I know you'll see everything is super bright. What we actually want to do is start off with the super bright image and then darken it, because this is the light currently is actually accurate to the brightness of the sun, which is, if you want an accurate light value, just set it to about 175, and that's an accurate value for the sun, roughly. There's a little nugget of knowledge for you. And then you can set the your exposure and color management to about -4.5, and that'll do you good. You can get more specific with like camera settings if you have the photographer add-on, which I highly recommend, but we'll just set it to -4.5 right now. And then I want to maybe just turn off depth of field. And then this is a pretty decent scene. I might change the angle of the sun here and then add in a second light with a higher angle, much lower intensity, a bluer color, and yeah, maybe we'll just mess with that angle. Okay, we have a scene now. We have a scene, and I can give it a render. Finally, we have, it took us like, how long? It took us almost 20 minutes, but we got here. I really should have set up a scene beforehand. That would have been a lot better. But we are here, and we've still got time left. So, compositing. Compositing is very important because we have a render here, and it's currently rendering out, but I'll probably stop it early. But we can see that we've got some issues with the render. Mainly, it's just kind of flat looking. I mean, like, we've got some nice lighting, and we've got really nice materials and a really amazing model. But just looking at it, like, it's really, really sharp and rigid looking, and you don't have sort of the softness and some of the features that that an image captured in a real camera has. So, enter compositing. Now, you can go to store.christopherfraser.net. That's the current URL. And find my Advanced Compositing Nodes, or in the description below, in both the stream and the video, you'll find a link to it. And I'm just appending it now. Again, you can't see the file browser because of the way that my streaming software is set up. Yeah, but I'm going to go ahead and append from the node tree all of the nodes. And then we'll tab over to compositing. And now we can finally get started. I'll hit N to close this panel here and create a viewer node. You can Control-Shift left click on anything for it to connect automatically to the viewer if you have Node Wrangler enabled. And I'll just actually get rid of the composite because we're not rendering out an image. We really only need to see the background here. All right. So the thing about Blender's built-in nodes, I'm going to explain basically why I'm not sticking to just Blender's nodes. The thing with the nodes that are built into Blender is that there just aren't a lot of them that are useful from an effects perspective, and the ones that we do have aren't great. So for example, the glare node, is actually okay, and I still like to use the streaks every now and again, but the fog glow, for example, is pretty slow, and I'm not a huge fan of it. It looks okay, but you have some issues with like the way that the quality works is kind of a weird system. And I mean, it's fine, honestly, it is okay, but I really don't like it. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Like the effects here or the settings here, like the mix and the threshold, and then you're missing some important things. Like you can't make anamorphic streaks, for example. And then there are just some missing tools, like there isn't a proper grain node and there isn't vignette, and there aren't a lot of things. So that's where the advanced compositing nodes come in. And you can see I've imported them, and this is a full list of all of the nodes. So we're just going to kind of look at what I might do to composite this. So let's just begin with our first node in here. Let's start with soft glow, because something like this especially is going to need some kind of a glow. Now, I've got a couple of different glows included in Advanced Compositing Nodes, which again, you can get from the link in my description. But this is sort of my go-to. So we can see that there are a couple of different outputs here. So we can see the threshold, which is basically everything that's going to be receiving some kind of glow. And we can maybe turn this up a bit if we only want the engines to receive glow. Or we can set it to 0 for an essentially physically accurate glow. And we can see, if we connect the glow output to the viewer, we can see just the actual glow that's being generated. But I want to see the image. So we've got a couple of different settings here. Like I said, we've got the threshold, which will essentially dictate what actually receives glow. So if we turn this way up, you can see the intensity of the glow goes down. That's because what we've now said is that that area can't receive a glow. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. I want to set this to 0 though, because technically everything receives glow, regardless of how bright or dim it is. The only reason threshold exists is if you're working with an image that doesn't have a super high dynamic range like this. We have the actual brightness of the thrusters compared to everything else, so we don't need to use the threshold effect. We can get an actual physically accurate glow effect without it. But the intensity slider is important for, our stylistic whatever. So let's just set up our intensity, and I'll set it to maybe like 0.2. I think looks pretty nice. We're getting some nice soft glow from the engines, but nothing too harsh. We're also getting a little bit from the rest of the ship because it's lit pretty bright, but again, it's nothing too intense. Now we can also adjust the size here, which is pretty fun. And the cool thing about this is that unlike with the glare node, you're not actually limited by how big or small you can make it. So if we wanted to, we can have just a tiny little, and you can see that halo. If we turn this off and then back on again, you can see that there's just a tiny little halo being generated. If I come in here, I can set the zoom to like 1.5. You can see right around the engines there, as I mute and unmute this node, we're getting a little bit of that halo. But we could also set the intent or the size to something really big like 5, and you see that it's just like this super wide, soft looking glow. The size, the default size is pretty decent, but I think I want to actually make it a little bit lower. And in fact, what we can do is we can have one that's a smaller size like this, like 0.2, and maybe even bring up the intensity a little bit. Oops, to 0.3. And then we can duplicate this and have a regular size 1 with maybe a lower intensity. And then that way we get like a brighter halo, but then we still have like a less intense overall glow. So I'm still trying to decide what I want the intensity of this to be. We'll say like 0.15, I think is okay. Maybe 0.12. I don't want the glow to be overwhelming here. I don't want it to look too soft. Okay, this is looking okay. And I like this. Now, what we could also do, if we want this to be more anamorphic, and I think we might try to go for this, is I've got some interesting settings here. So I've got, of course, a tint. So if I wanted this to be more of a blue color, I could change the tint, and you'll see that the glow updates to more blue. But I actually want to keep the tint white for now. And what I want to play around with is the aspect. So this is the aspect ratio. If we bring this way up, what you'll see is that the glow gets stretched out really, really wide. But if we bring the aspect down a lot, we're going to see that it's going to get stretched vertically. So you can get some more interesting and like anamorphic sorts of results. This wouldn't be anamorphic. This would be, I don't know what this would be. I'm not sure what the term is for that sort of streak. But what I think we'll do is we'll just set the aspect ratio to maybe 2 for both of these. And then you're going to see that we get more of a stretched glow, which I think looks kind of nice. And we might even just make that 1.5 instead of 2. So it's a little bit less stretching, but it's definitely being stretched. Now, something that I talked about in the tutorial where I talked about lighting is light textures. And if we actually go, if we add in an exposure node here, and if we bring this way down, you might be able to see a bit of that texture coming into play here. Oh, maybe there isn't actually a texture on this. Maybe I don't actually have a texture applied. So we're not going to see that so much. But this is the part where you would see the texturing, because now that we have got a nice glow. But the next thing that I want to do is I want to add in some anamorphic streaks, which is a little bit more. This is more into the lens flare category. So this is kind of like a glow, but it's more specific of a thing. So I've got some cool settings here that are really useful under the anamorphic streaks. Let's just, what do we do with the viewer? I'll just move it there so it's kind of out of the way. But then we have this ugly, like, this weird spline thing. So I don't know. I'll just like, yeah, I'll just like hide it. What's the keybind to like, there we go. Control H, and then I can hit H. So it's just a little thing. Okay. So we've got some helpful settings here. We've got, again, a threshold, just like we have for the glow, and you're going to see this on all of our glow-based effects. In Advanced Compositing Nodes is a threshold. But here we have some more specific settings to the anamorphic streaks. Now, we have horizontal size and vertical size. So instead of having an aspect ratio, we actually have this really cool feature where you can individually adjust the sizes. Now, the way that this specifically is set up is so the horizontal size, like if you have a horizontal size of 0.1 and a vertical size of 0.1, it's still going to be wider than it is tall. Like you can see, it's still more of a wide sort of glow. But it still gives you the ability to, like, it gives you it gives you finer control. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can say, like, I want to just adjust, I want to only give the glow width. Man, I'm having a hard time talking. So you can say, I want to only give the effect width, but no height. Or maybe you can say, I want to give it a little bit of height, but I want to be able to control that, because with the aspect ratio, you have kind of a harder time controlling that. You still have that control, but it's not quite as artist friendly. So maybe we want to give a slight vertical size, and maybe this intensity is okay. Maybe we want to give it more vertical or more horizontal. We'll say 0.5. And then maybe we want to bring down this tint amount. By default, it tints really intense blue, and that's a nice look, but I think I want to tone it back a bit for this. So we'll say maybe like 0.5. And yeah, maybe we'll bring down the intensity even further, because really what I'm looking at is while I want like the actual hull to glow, I don't want it to have as much glow as the engines. All right. This is looking pretty good so far. The other thing that I'll say, now when a CG render comes straight out of the engine, an issue that you have is that everything is like really sharp. Technically, everything isn't perfectly sharp here because we have anti-aliasing, which gets rid of perfect sharp edges, but it's really, really sharp. So what you'll want to do is add in a blur node. We can just set this to like 1, just to kind of soften the image. Maybe even like 2, maybe 2 pixels. And you know, it looks a lot softer, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Maybe we'll go relative. So 1 I know is going to be too much. 1% is going to be too much. 0.5% then is going to be too much. Let's try 0.1. Let's see what 0.1 gets us. I'm just going to mute all the glows for a second. So before, after. I think that looks pretty good. And actually, something interesting that we're getting is the glow, because it's in percentages, it's actually wider than it is tall, which I think is I think it's fitting if we're going for an anamorphic look, because you would have a stretched blur. All right, now we can re-enable our glows. And you can see already we have a really nice, really nice image. Now I want to go over quickly some of the other options that we have for glows. I want to go over one in particular. So let's actually start with the regular glow. So the soft glow, I think it's just comprised of, okay, it's not comprised of actual glow nodes, but the way that it's built is very similar. So if we just have like a glow here, a regular glow, what we can do is we can adjust, it's just one iteration, which actually makes it work very fast. So we can set the threshold again to like 0, and we can adjust the size of this. And you can see it doesn't have quite the nice fall off that the soft glow has, but that's okay because it's not meant to. It's meant to just be, you know, just a regular old glow. And from this, you can actually, oops, I meant to bring down the saturation. You can actually craft your own glow by messing around with the size and intensity. Bring that way down. Way down. Until you have something that you are happy with. So if you maybe don't love the soft glow, this will just give you more control. It gives you a lot more control than the glare node. But the soft glow is basically just like, it's a sort of glow that I liked. And so I just give that to you out of the box, so you don't have to worry about that. And so we'll just delete that. The other glow that I wanted to talk about that's pretty interesting is the quick glow. Now the quick glow it's like the soft glow, but as you can see here, it gives you a bit of an interesting different result. So what it does is it has this feature called green mix out. So Advanced Compositing Nodes is just full of different things that I wanted to have personally. For anybody just tuning in, we're going over compositing and looking at Advanced Compositing Nodes for Blender, which you can get in the description below. Whether you're watching this on YouTube later or on now on YouTube but live. Anyways, so it's just a collection of things that I personally wanted, and I wanted to have a glow that was like that I could just drop in. That had like a nice soft fall off, but that also did some interesting things to the color. Now it doesn't work perfectly all the time, but in this case and in this case I think it kind of falls into that. So what it's doing is it's kind of mixing out the green a little bit in a non-linear way, so you can have more interestingly colored glow. So you wouldn't want to have this like all the way at 1 intensity all the time, because like while maybe it looks okay in some places with some colors, right now it looks a little bit weird. Hey, Jimmy the professional. Sorry, it is kind of a weird teaching. I'm just trying this new thing. Trying out this new thing. I know you're already gone now, but yeah, I hope to see you tune in later on YouTube. Anyways, so the quick glow, it like mixes out the green, and it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it works pretty well. But what you can do is, in this case, I think it kind of looks nice if the green mix out is subtle. And that's basically the only difference from the soft glow. Over here, the soft glow, you can see we have, if I just move this over and unmute it, you can see that we have some of the same settings. We don't have a tint, but we do have an aspect ratio. And we have the size and intensity and threshold, which are just some standard glow effects or glow values. But the quick glow just gives you that green mix out effect, which I think it gives you a bit of an interesting result to the glow, and it's different than tinting it because it gives you a bit of a different result for each different color. Hi, Shreyans? I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Shreyans. However it's pronounced, it's really cool. It's a really cool name. Anyways, so the quick glow, I think I might actually keep this in this comp because I think it looks pretty nice. So we can go ahead and actually we'll enable the rest of these in a second that we've already gone over. But the last one that I wanted to cover is something interesting that after hearing a tip from somebody who heard the tip from Andrew Kramer, aka Video Copilot, for any of you who are familiar, I decided to put this together. So this glow it's not physically accurate, but it can look really, really good. So we'll just kind of bring up the size here. So this is the same as just a regular glow, but it has some interesting gamma effects applied to it. So you can see that the glow looks really, really intense, but it's not the same as if you just like brought up the intensity. It's a different sort of intensity. And that's because essentially the gamma of the glow is being brought up a lot. So that's why like it becomes this almost flat block. If you, the first time, Shrayans, then Shrayans, right? I think I said Shrayans, then Shrines. I'm not sure. So you can see that we get this like flat block if I bring the gamma all the way up. So really what this allows you to do is take things that are like, if it's not quite as intense, it's going to become more intense as a glow. So this you may want to bring the intensity down. I mean it depends on taste, you know, do whatever you think looks good for your comp. But like, I just recommend kind of bringing this up subtly in most cases, and then maybe keeping the intensity a bit lower. Because really what this is for is if like I want the whole to glow a bit more, but I don't want the engines to glow more, then I might bring this in. And oops. Why did I say it that way? Anyway, so that's another effect that can be really useful. I don't want to use it for this comp specifically, but it works really well sometimes. So I think now that we've kind of gone over the glows, and for anyone who wasn't there for the rest of the glows, I'm going to put this up as a VOD later, and I'll probably go over all of this stuff in a separate video. But you can see that we've got like a really intense, like much softer looking image. So now that we've added like 4 different glows, well, we've added the streaks too. I think I might tone down the intensity of these a little bit. Mostly these soft glows back here. They're just a little bit overpowering. So we'll just do that and see how it looks. The Blender Compositor is pretty slow. In the future, I'll talk about compositing in Fusion because that's my go-to. But yeah, this looks pretty good so far, I think. All right, now the next part, let's talk about Caustics. I've found I like to add these into a lot of scenes. So the Caustic is an interesting sort of effect where you'll see it'll pop up right here probably. And give it this one can be a little bit more intense sometimes. Okay, yeah, I see this here. So I like to turn the threshold all the way down for the Caustics. But you may want to bring it up to isolate, like maybe just in this case the engine lights. The spaceship models, this one specifically, this was modeled from this model is from a talented model named Alexander Ivanov. He is on ArtStation. You can find him. His username, I don't know how you would pronounce it. I'll add in a frame here and I'll type it so you can see. This is what his name on ArtStation is. That's like if you go to his ArtStation, the handle. It's a really nice model. If I don't get them from him, sometimes I've been getting models from another modeler named Kim Merzin. I'll try to leave their links. I'll at least leave Alexander's link because I'm using his model in this video. I'll leave his link. But you can see like on my Instagram, I talk about them a lot. Yeah. So I hope that helps. They're really great models. You can, they sell these models and yeah, please do. So for the Caustics, I think I'm going to tone this way down just because it's a little bit overpowering and it works best. But you can see that the effect here is that it's like a lens flare. It's a ghost effect, but it's got like some chromatic aberration. Needed some water. Gotta stay hydrated. You're welcome, Shrayans. And I think in this case, I don't really, you can see the kind of the faint blobby shape of the rest of the ship. And I don't really want that. So I'm going to maybe bring the threshold way up to like, we'll say 100 and we'll see where that gets us. Again, the Blender Compositor is pretty slow. There's not really much we can do about that. It just is. So wait for that. That was actually a really good guesswork on my part. And we'll bring the mix way down even more. There's not a lot we can do about that. It's just, you usually have to bring it down a lot. But I really like the Caustics as an effect because it's like a fun lens flare effect, but it also adds a lot of color because of the chromatic aberration that's applied to it. So I might go even small. Wait, what did I have it set at before? Oh, I made a mistake. Okay. No, 0.001. Having issues on camera here. we'll just wait for this to do its thing. It's gonna take a second. All right, okay, so this is looking pretty decent, I think. I like how the caustics are looking. I think it looks all right. Yeah, yeah. I might bring it down just a tiny bit more, because I do like it to be really subtle. I like it when it's there, but I like it to be pretty subtle. So I'll do that, and then I think we'll move on to adding in the next effect. Now, as you can see, Advanced Compositing Nodes has a lot of different nodes in it. And not all of them are going to fit every scene. Like, we don't need the retro screen. Like, I'll just show this to you. This is actually just something I threw in for fun. It's kind of a fun node, and it takes a second to render. But it does this, it like pixelates the screen and everything, and it shows off a couple of different things that Advanced Compositing Nodes has. Like, I have a, where is it? A simple pixelate. Pixelation in Blender is usually pretty weird. So I added this like simple pixelate node. It does add some nice glare to the engines, yeah. So I quite the only thing is that it is kind of slow, so I might disable it for the time being before we get to the end of the comp. And then I'll turn it back on. So that way we're not waiting forever for the whole thing to update. The next thing that we probably want to go over, we'll actually go over grain almost last. I want to go over the vignette next. Although maybe it would be actually more accurate. I like to do my compositing accurately. So if you think about the order that things go through as the light goes through the lens to hit the sensor, first is the vignette, because the vignette is the effect of the actual aperture, or like the lens, or something that is actually in front of the lens blocking light coming through. And then the glows and everything, that happens inside of the lens. So because the light hits the vignette first, I'm going to put the vignette first in the stack, which isn't going to have a huge effect here because there aren't a lot of things outside here, but oops. But we can still see a bit of the effect. So I might mess with this. I'm trying to see if it's making a huge difference here. Just because our ship, in this case, it's kind of towards the center, it's kind of harder to see the effect of the vignette. But I think we can, yeah, we can bring down the size and you can see it has more of an effect. Hey, Michael. Yeah, a little bit late maybe, but never too late. And thank you very much. I am pretty happy with this so far. So we're just going over compositing today, and yeah, it is looking pretty good. Just wait till I turn on all the glows. So the vignette, I think, is looking okay, and I think that I will actually keep it in. It's a very subtle effect in this case, but I am not unhappy with it. All right, let's turn these on. So it will have a bit of an effect on the glow because this left engine is darker than the rest. You can see that like the glow isn't as intense on it, which does actually give, I don't know, it gives it a bit more variation, I guess. It makes it look fun. It's not always an essential, but I generally like to add some kind of vignette, but it's kind of a stylistic choice because, you know, you're not always going to have like barn doors for every shot. Okay. Now the next thing that we probably want to add is we'll probably want to consider grain. Where are we right now? We're almost at 45 minutes. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Yeah. This is all made possible by Advanced Compositing Nodes, which is something that I have. You can get it from my website. There's a link to it in the description. So we're going to go ahead and I think add in actually the dispersion. I want to talk about this. This is one of the things that I really like about this whole thing. So the way that you would normally do like chromatic aberration, and again, because the compositor in Blender is slow, I'll just turn this off while I work. Normally, the way that you would do this in Blender is go under Distort, and you would use the Lens Distortion node. Michael, I'm glad you're liking the Planet shader. One of my prouder works. So the Lens Distortion node is still my go-to for actual distortion effects, even though it is really like you got to use really low values. But this is where you would normally do dispersion, and you can see that like the dispersion looks nice, and one of the things that it has is it's like this nice blur sort of effect, which I couldn't get to work super well in Advanced Compositing Nodes just with the limitations of Blender. But it's really intense, but it limits you to only being able to do this sort of distortion effect. And it limits you to this color choice, and I'll talk about that in a second. With my dispersion node, I wanted to give a lot more customization. So let's start off. First of all, the values make a lot more sense. Like, it's not like this 0 to 1 sort of scale. You're able to go a lot higher, and you can see that it affects the image a lot less intensely. It's not, you don't have to be as sensitive with your values. You can kind of just like scroll with your mouse, or like hold down shift and scroll with your mouse and find something that looks pretty good. So I'll still leave it though at normally a pretty low value, like maybe 0.5. So that you get like, and it's very hard to see, especially with compression. I bet it's really hard to see, but there's like a slight fringing effect on the outside. There's a very slight fringing, and in the final image you can see it. But I think what we'll do while I explain the node is I'll bring it up a lot more. So I'll set it to like 5 so that it's obvious. And what we'll do is, the first thing that I want to talk about is the color. So I called this Chroma, I think, Chroma Color. So what this is basically the color of like the outer bit of dispersion, and then the inner color is going to be the opposite of whatever you choose here. So the color that I like to do for my dispersion is I like to bring the blue all the way up and get this purple green color. And I don't know why, it's just what I like. With my camera, my lens, it gives these sorts of colors, but we could even make it like a bit more red. Set this to like 0.5, or hi Hyper. And Shreyans I understand, but trust me, I use this tool in like basically every time I do a render. I prefer, like all my Instagram renders, I use this. They all pass through some advanced compositing nodes before coming in. And sorry, Hyper, I've never been greeted like that before. I feel so I don't know how to describe it. I feel so good. It feels like someone's excited. Anyways, so you can change some of these colors. We could get like a yellow, and you can change this to whatever color you want it to be. And in fact, if you were to change this to like, dang it. Okay, if you were to change this to like blue, you would get the inverse of the normal sort of effect. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. So I'll set this to this sort of magenta color, just because it's kind of what I like. And then we're going to talk about some of the other different things. Man, Hyper is so excited to be here right now. This is just like, that's crazy. I've never seen someone so excited to see something of mine before. The next thing is under distort, something very similar is scale. So you can see, okay, scale, maybe scale ramps a little bit differently than distort, but the point is that scale and distort are sort of fundamentally different things, because it's literally taking the different color channels and it's applying a scale transform. With distort, you're going to see that the effect is more intense generally towards the edges. In this case, it doesn't seem to be. I'm going to have to look under the hood later and make sure that it works properly. Oh, it is working properly. It's the opposite of what I was saying. The center, you can see it's kind of bulging out. Like you can, it's kind of hard to see. Maybe I'll check it out. But yeah, it gives you it's more bulgy. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's more bulgy than it is like scaling it up. There is a difference. I promise. Now what I can show you, there definitely is a visual difference between is these next two. So you have position, which just moves them. And I don't really have any further controls other than the position, but generally, you're not going to need it so much. So this will give a much more uniform sort of dispersion over the whole thing. And then I have angle, which is, again, it's just another stylistic thing where it will rotate the different color channels. And again, this is the kind of thing that you'll want to keep really, really subtle in your renders. But yeah. So I think I'll set the distort to 0.5, which you can't, or maybe I'll set it to 1. I don't think it's really visible on the stream just because of compression, but later on in the render, which I'll probably upload to Instagram or something later, or I'll upload it to YouTube. I'm sorry, I need to get another drink of water. My throat's so dry. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I hope the mic didn't pick that up. Okay. I think I'm feeling a lot better. Man, I sound like I've been talking for like hours today. It's like only been the live stream, but I feel like I've been talking forever. I'll see how much longer I can go. Anyways, I don't know how visible it is on the compression, but you'll see it later and on wherever I upload it. Now, if we reapply all of our other effects here, we'll give it a second to render. And I wonder, maybe under like options, OpenCL, is that gonna, maybe that'll help. There we go. There's our nice render. Man, it's looking really good right now. I'm really happy with this so far. It looks so nice and soft, and the glows are all really beautiful. This is why I made this tool, because like I can do this stuff. So Advanced Compositing Nodes, it's pretty good. store.christopher.net. URL may change in the future, but for now it's what I got. Okay. Now the last, or one of the last things that I think we'll talk about for now is grain. Grain is, I know, isn't it so nice? Isn't grain right here. Sorry, I was responding to Michael. I look over and I say things, but I also realize what I say in response probably comes like 4 or 5 seconds after it's posted, so it doesn't make sense. Anyways, I'll turn off Caustic again. So I know, right? You definitely should buy. Again, I'm responding to chat. If I had chat on screen right now, everything would make so much more sense. So grain, we're gonna have to let this calculate because now it's canceling and it's kind of freaking out. This, I promise, is not an issue with the compositing nodes. This is just a Blender thing. Blender's compositing is slow, and it's not my favorite, but when I do use it, these are my go-to nodes. Come on. It's calculating. It's calculating. Computing. Oh, it's doing its thing. It says compositing now. Any second now, we'll see some grain show up. Now, grain, I don't think it needs much introduction. It's just, you know, it's grain. All images and pictures have grain. Yeah. Is this because I turned on OpenCL? I wonder if that's making it slower. I don't know why it would, but maybe if I set, I wonder if I set this to low. It'd be really nice to see a Blender update that focuses on the compositor a bit more. I think that would be really nice. I'd love to see some new tools. Like, honestly, like, as much as I'd like to say, like, buy my product, it would be nice if these tools were already in Blender. But they're not. So for the time being, this makes it, I mean, they kind of are, but you have to do some backflips to get them working, which is why I did which is kind of why I did all the work beforehand too. It is really taking its sweet time giving us this grain. Maybe if I just turn everything off. Oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Blender's not responding. I've never had this issue after adding the grain before. I guess this is just a pretty monster. Yes, I did backflips. I did like 3 or 4 backflips at least. Huh. Okay. Everything went black. Let's just turn this all off. Okay. So that's what happens when we set the quality to low. Maybe we'll try medium because that looks a bit weird. That's our blur that we had in the beginning. Okay, then we'll add in our grain. Now it's probably, I am going to enable one glow so that we can see this better. Okay, I think we're back now. We're good. So the effect of the glow right now is kind of subtle, but if I turn this way up, you can probably see, I don't know how well the compression is letting it come through, but you can probably see that we're getting like a whole ton of grain off like on the ship and around the ship and everything. It is some pretty intense grain. In fact, if I turn up the scale, you can probably see it even better. So this might be a little bit more visible. You wouldn't really ever use this sort of scale in an actual render. Actually, no, you might. I can think of a reason why, and we might actually use that here. So again, Oh, you know what? You are totally right, Michael. I should be saving this. um, give me just a second. I should have been scared into saving this just a second ago. Where is my... Oh, there it is. Tutorials. See you later, Michael. Thanks for joining us in the stream. Okay, I'll call this comp stream. You can't see the file browser right now because it's not my streaming software isn't set up to show it. Okay, we are saved. Now it's saving right now. It's a pretty high poly ship, so it takes a second to save. Oh, YouTube is compressing the black areas. Okay. Cool. I'll be back in you'll be back in 5 minutes. Well, then I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, it is kind of compressing it to black areas, isn't it? Let's see what I can do about that. I wonder if it's because I'm using Rec 709. Maybe if I change this to sRGB. I'm waiting for it to update on YouTube so I can. I've got the stream open in another thing. We're gonna see. I don't think that changed it. I don't think that changed anything. So I might change back over to Rec 709. How else can I guess I can turn up, you know, I'll just turn up the exposure. I'll just turn up the exposure and then everything will become these really bright blobs. So I'll bring the scale down to like 1. While it's doing it. There we go. That's visible. Now it's visible. Okay. That is some grain and a half, as you can see. So right now it's obviously really, really intense. And I don't actually know if we can go higher with the amount. Oh, we can. Oh, goodness. Okay. This will help us to illustrate things a little bit better. So it's grain, you know, what else to say? I've got some different settings here though for it. So I've got this amount value here, which obviously will allow us to turn it way down so we can get a much subtler grain. In this case, for the stream, I won't do that because then you won't be able to see it. We've also got this saturation. Now, what I found is if you turn the saturation way up, the grain becomes a little bit less noticeable. Just because kind of like the values are, it doesn't go up to white so much. Like you get really intense red and really intense blue and stuff like that. If you want a more film-like grain though, you'll probably want to turn the saturation way down because generally speaking, film grain, I don't know why, it tends to be more of a luminance thing than it is a color thing. So yeah, that's just that. We'll turn the saturation up a tiny bit though, I guess. I don't know. You can really do whatever you want. Maybe, I think I'll turn the saturation up actually to like 0.5. Because I think it's going to look better for what we're going to do in a second. The next value though is softness. Now, there's a slight blur being applied, but if you turn down the softness, then you can see you get much more like sharp grains. Yeah, it's softness. Or you can turn it up and then it becomes more soft. In this case, it'll become bigger, blurrier blobs, which is actually good. Because like I just said, or like I said a few minutes ago, I was talking about how the scale, bringing the scale up actually does have some good applications. And we're going to go over one of those applications right now. So maybe we'll set the scale to 3. So in doing my compositing, I was trying to composite some CG into a live action shot that I filmed on my camera. And this was maybe a few weeks ago. And what I discovered is that grain, it's almost got multiple levels to it. Like you'll have some bigger splotches of grain and then you'll have some smaller, finer grain. So we're going to try to replicate that a bit here with this bigger splotcher pass. And then we'll add in a second pass of grain. And I haven't done this with these nodes before, but we're going to give it a go. I'll maybe turn down the amount a touch. We'll turn down the softness to like 0. Maybe we'll turn on the saturation and like the scale. And it might be kind of hard to see on YouTube, but we're actually getting the effect that I want. Kind of nicely. Now, overall, the grain is a bit intense, but you know, that's for demonstration purposes. Obviously, we don't want everything to be blown out either. But this is sort of the effect that we want to have. Like, I don't know how well you can see it. Maybe if I bring up the zoom size again. But you can kind of see that there are like some bigger splotches, and then they're like there's this smaller kind of finer grain pattern, which is exactly what we want, because that's kind of what you get in real life. At least on digital cameras, you can get that, is some different like levels of the grain. Now, if you want to get like actual pixel size grain, you actually want to turn down the scale even more, to even as low as like 1. Just as like a thing to keep in mind. So we'll go back to our scale of 1.5. And I know not all of it is going to be super visible on stream, but it's going to be visible in the render later at least. So, you know, you can look back on it and you can be like, oh, I remember when I could see the grain on the stream. So I'll bring our exposure back down. And you know, you probably can't see the grain, but you might be able to see our super colorful ship, because now it looks like cotton candy, or like it looks like a birthday cake cupcake. Hey, welcome back, Michael. Just got finished up with our grain effects. You know what? Since I've only got 4 viewers and you're one of them, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you around a little bit here. So we did a couple of, and just as sort of a recap for everybody else, we did 2 levels of grain. One that's sort of like a bigger grain, that gives us something a bit more splotchy, and then we have a finer level that's a bit, it's finer, it's a smaller grain. Which matches up better with what I've found happens with some real cameras. At least with my camera, you get something kind of like that. So that's just something that you can do with these nodes here. All right, now, minus 4.5. And then, again, you won't be able to see it super well in the stream, but I'm going to turn down the grain, because in the render, it's going to look horrendous if there's all of this super intense grain. Now, we'll disable that, as has been our thing for performance. And then what do we want to go over next? I don't think there's a lot more to talk about that applies to this render. Maybe this is normally where I would leave it. We could talk about the single ghost. This could be something that some people want to do. So, in Blender, you know, you've got the glare node, and in that glare node, you have ghosts. And this mimics something that you have in real lens flares. Here it looks like crazy psychedelic. So if we turn down the iterations, maybe, we're getting like these different like duplicates of the of our image at like different levels and stuff, just to kind of emulate like the different pieces of glass inside of a camera lens. Which is, you know, it's kind of a realistic thing, but I don't like the way that Blender's ghosts look, honestly. And yeah, and sometimes you don't want a ton. Like the fact that it limits you to having like all of this instead of being able to have like just one ghost is kind of frustrating. So that's really all this is. And by default, it's blurred out a lot. So we've got our normal settings. We've got our threshold, which again, we'll set to 0 for physical accuracy. We've got our intensity, which we'll bring up for now so we can see it better. And then we've got a blur amount. So I'm going to turn this way down because it's really, really big. And then you can see like the sharper silhouette essentially of the, you know, whatever, of the ship, of the render, of the ghost. We could turn it down all the way and it's just essentially a duplicate. Yeah, so you can kind of decide like for your own render how you want it to look. Maybe you want just a little bit of glow, and then, you know, you'd bring down the intensity probably a lot more. Waiting to see how that looks. Oh, I guess that's it. Or I think maybe if we're going to include this here, I want to have a bit more blur. I want it to be nice and soft and some lower intensity. Because lens flares are cool, but the one thing that I've learned about compositing over the years is that usually your first inclination for like effects is too much, and you're going to need to dial it back, because like typically what a lot of people will do for like chromatic aberration is turn it up till they can see it. And you see a lot of renders that look like this, and Again, I'll just bring this in so you can see it better. You'll see a lot of renders that look kind of like this, with like this really intense noticeable, like it looks almost like you're underwater or something, or you're looking through like a crystal, you know? Like it's just way more than is necessary or realistic. Like no lens, other than maybe some really, really cheap like action camera or like Walmart like camcorder lenses, like no lens is actually going to look this way. So why would you add that in? Because this is an imperfection. You don't want this. It makes the image like harder to understand. Yeah, so with lens flares and stuff, it's the same way. I want to turn it way down, so we're getting a little bit of it, but we're not getting a lot of it. And that's maybe we can go a little bit more than that so you can see it. So right now it's really, really subtle. So subtle, in fact, that again, it might not be super visible through YouTube compression, but there is like a slight halo there. The ship, Michael, it was modeled by Alexander Ivanov. You can find him on ArtStation. I showed this earlier. His username is, I don't know how to say it. It's this. This is his. If you go to like ArtStation /this or /user/this, I don't know how that is. I'll probably link it in the description later because I used it in this stream. But yeah, it's a super, super nice model. So where was I? My train of thought went kersplat. So yeah, keep your effect subtle is generally a good thing. And with this ghost, I think we might leave it in, but do the same thing. The model is not free, no. It's something like $30 or $40, I think, but it is gorgeous. I love it so much. All of his stuff. I actually bought one of his other models a while ago, the DP20 Karelian cruiser, or whatever it's called. He makes some really nice models. Yeah, so I think we've gone over most of the things. I guess if we want to, we can kind of touch on some other things. Hi, Atomic Gaming. I recognize you from my YouTube comments, actually. I don't remember everyone from my YouTube comments, but I remember you. So let's see. I guess we can turn everything on now and see how our final result looks. Make sure that's turned on and that's turned on. That is from my, yep, it is the same cruiser from my ship lighting video. Oh boy, something happened here. So this is not what this is supposed to look like. Let's just it's gotta be something silly is plugged into. Something's just plugged into the wrong place, I feel like. There's something wrong with the vignette. I wonder if it's because earlier I set this. If I set that to high, does it work? No, that didn't change anything. That's weird, because it was working earlier. I'm not sure what happened. Huh. Well, I guess now you can see a bit of like the shape of the vignette, at least. You can kind of see how that works, and we got the intensity, and the softness is like the blur, and then you've got like the size, which changes, you know, the size of the vignette of the aperture. Oh well, I guess that's not working, so we'll just turn that off for now. It wasn't the most important thing to this render. I really don't know why it stopped working though. That's really strange. Oh, I'm dumb. It's because I turned off the render layer. That was my mistake. It's because because the actual image that I was compositing, there was no thing. Okay, now let's let this render. We're stuck in the canceling again. We had this earlier. It said canceling and it did that for like a minute. Make sure when you're turning things off, you don't turn off the wrong things. All right, it is saved. And now we just gotta wait for it to finish canceling. which for some reason sometimes it takes an unreasonably long time for it to just not do something. Again, there's some things in Blender. I love Blender. It's such a fantastic tool. Some things have just not been changed since they were released, though. And the compositor kind of seems like one of those things. So we're going to get to see our final result in a second. It's not going to look gray. I'm pretty excited to see how this turns out. I might actually move this ghost over here, though. Because like I talked about earlier, I like to try to do things in like a physically accurate order. So like the light, the reason why the vignette is first is because when the light passes through the lens, it hits vignette first, which vignette isn't a thing. It's not like an object, but vignette is the effect that you get when there's an object in front of the lens. So because it hits that first, and then it bounces around inside of the lens, and that's where you get glows and stuff. I like to do that first. So I like to have grain as one of the last things. I don't know if grain is technically, if that happens in the sensor. That might be something that happens in the very beginning. I really don't know. But I've added it in the end. So, you know, whatever. Why is this taking so long to cancel? So, how is everyone? How are we liking this gray screen here? It is quite something. In the future, I'll also do a thing. I know I've said this like 3 times already this stream, but we'll talk about doing some compositing in Blackmagic Fusion inside of DaVinci Resolve, which is free. Hey, Crypto Lego. I know this looks so different from Resolve compositing. Everything about it is totally different. I'm gonna talk about Resolve compositing in the near-ish future, hopefully. I put up a poll recently and asked if people would like to see compositing or pipeline, and they chose compositing. So I'll also talk about pipeline soon too. See, I've done so few things that like I have the whole world open to me as far as topics. I can talk about anything I want to because I've done almost nothing. It is great. That's haha, good pun. I know, such an interesting gray screen. There's so much. It's just this, you know, I could upload this to ArtStation right now and I would probably get hired by ILM. I think they would just give me a position as a senior compositor. I think that's, hey, you know, I'll just screen grabbed. All right, guys, I'm working at ILM. My hand made of. I'm getting distracted by everything now. Yeah, we still got our image there. You know, I'm beginning to think, okay, I'm going to count down from 5. If this isn't done when I count down from 5, I'm just going to reload the scene and re-render it. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm reloading it. Oh, now it's stuck because it's canceling. All right, I just got to like force quit Blender. I did not expect this to happen, I've got to say. It's not where I saw this stream going. All right, there we go. Now we're at a black screen. How's that? Thanks, I appreciate the full respect for the compositing tutorial. All right. Comp stream. And we'll oh, I probably need to add in composite node again. All right, and render. Rendering a spaceship. I guess you probably did enter or come in after that. This spaceship here from the spaceship lighting tutorial. Beautiful ship. I will have a link to where you can buy it in the description soon, as soon as I can after this goes up. I love it. I've been working with it a lot lately, and it's pretty cool. So I'll give this a minute to render. I don't think we need too many samples. Really, all more samples is going to do is kind of resolve like like down here around the engines. That's about it. That is the sound of my first water bottle being crunched. Although I don't think I'll crunch a second. Okay, I think that's probably good. We got a little bit of grain there still, but that'll be okay. And now we'll have it composite, and we will see the magic of the advanced compositing nodes in just a moment. Just a moment. Thanks, Crypto Lego. I've worked really hard to develop that look. Oh boy, some blur here. This probably is a bit out of hand. Wonder if I set that to high. I don't normally have the samples at 4,000. I mean, I guess it depends on the scene. It's just kind of I think it's just it's either Blender's default or it's what I set the default to. I can't remember. Yeah, it does not need to be this high. I could probably get away with it at like, I don't know, maybe 100 samples, and then like, I don't know, mess with the noise threshold or something. But with denoising, I could just stop it halfway through anyway, so it doesn't make a huge difference to me. But this is what our comp is looking like right now. I'm pretty happy with this. Is it 3.0 default? Yeah, it's pretty high. Especially Cycles resolves images so fast now that you really don't need very many samples. Yeah, 128 was a better default, but you know, it is what it is. Save a new default, I guess, a new default scene. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with how this has turned out. I guess we could mess with a couple things. Again, I don't know how well it shows up on stream, but the grain is still a little bit much. I like it, but especially for a space scene, realistically, like in real life, if you were to capture this like in outer space with the real camera at this exposure, there would be absolutely no grain. You wouldn't see any, just because grain is a result of like low light and bringing up the ISO. So we want this to be very subtle. If we want it to be fully accurate, we might just remove the grain entirely, but I like to have a little touch of it. I'm also going to bring down the dispersion a little bit, because looking at the whole image, it might not be visible in stream. Let's change that. Let's zoom in. The chromatic aberration at the moment is a bit much, so I'm turning it down to half of what it was before, and now it's still visible, but it's a lot more subtle. And I leave it in just to kind of demonstrate it. Yeah, to save a default file, just file defaults, like Crypto said, defaults, save startup file. I think I've got some changes to my default file, but I can't remember. Yeah, I do, because I have ACES. I have it set up so I'm using Rec 709 by default, because that's what my monitor is calibrated to. But that goes into color management, which is a video for a different day. So this stage of the process, I've kind of finished the comp. Then you kind of look over the whole thing, and like you ask yourself what's too much and like what's not enough, what you might need more of. And so I have just determined that the grain and the dispersion was too much. I think everything else is pretty much okay. I'm kind of questioning the use of the caustics in this scene at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and mute that, and we're going to see how that looks. But I think that the ghost looks okay. Yeah, and I might actually remove the ghost as well, just because I like more of a low-key look personally. So let's do. I like that a lot. I like them removed. Yeah, it's just a personal preference thing. If you like it, and if I had a scene with if I had a shot with like the sun, like in the corner of the screen or something, then I would probably have these on, because it would highlight it a lot better. But and I would have to have it turned down so low, probably that like I don't know. It wouldn't be. It would. I feel like it would look better. So I'm just turning them off for now. But otherwise, I really like the way that this comp is looking, and I don't think there's too much more I can do to it. So, do we want to look at comping a different scene, or looking at some of the other tools? You know what? Let's look at a couple of the other tools. I think that's what we're gonna do. And thanks. The live video format is pretty cool. I like it because I don't have to do any editing. So yeah, the glare is really, really nice. Now we're actually just gonna go to the, oh, it looks so dry now. Maybe we'll go with the glow or the blurred version. So we'll just get this here. And I want to go over some of the other tools. The reason why I'm doing it without those other effects is only because it's only because, what am I trying to say here? Only because I don't want to have to wait for it to render everything. So yeah. I'm missing things from here now, I think. Yeah, I'm missing things. So we're going to have to, because I reloaded the scene, so we're going to have to reappend the Advanced Compositing Nodes, which is okay. If I had linked them, I don't think we would have had this problem, but I don't know. I didn't, yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about some of the other tools just because I think they're kind of interesting. So Michael's got to go. See you, Michael. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've got the vibrance. Actually, what I really want to talk about is just like the tint, I guess. Some of the color effects are kind of fun that you might use for color correction. So tint is one of these tools. Now, tint is pretty interesting. This works. I wanted it to work like After Effects tint, basically. So it's just like you choose a white color and then you choose like a black color and it just ramps between those two, you know? You can see here it's behaving really weird. And the reason for that is because this is such a high dynamic range scene, and because this is actually really, really bright, you can see that this is actually like the proper brightness for the scene. And we have values that go way above 1. It's super, super crazy. So the tint looks a little bit weird in this case. And you can see like if we were to compress the HDR, for example, and limit it to 0 to 1, you see it gets super dark and flat. It behaves a little bit weird in this scene, but you can still see that we're getting some of the effect out of it. Now, what we can do with this is we can create kind of a nice, maybe a bit of a nice color correction look, just by giving some like yellow or maybe more of an orange, sort of an orange color to the highlights. Sorry about that lag. Atomic Gaming, that sucks. Hey, you'll be able to see this as a VOD when it goes up later, so if you need to review the information, you've got maybe an hour and a half video ahead of you to watch. I'll see about maybe cutting some of these down in the future, or just doing a shorter version of this. Anyways, then we'll make the blacks, I think, more of a blue color, and the color picker seems weird. It is kind of broken, but that's because I'm using aces. It's not because of the compositing nodes or anything. So anyways, we're just getting sort of this color look here. And then we can just like bring down the tint amount, and then like it just becomes a lot more subtle. Maybe we'll bring that up more and then bring down the value of these blacks. So it's like a bit of a subtle color effect. It is very subtle, but it's there and it looks kind of nice. But that's really up to you to use. I also have vibrance. You know, vibrance I'm not going to be able to show off very well here either because it's because of this. Here's actually what we're going to do. Here's what we can do. Exposure. See, problem solving. If I bring down the exposure first, see what I'm doing there? Now we can see the vibrance. So this is kind of inspired by if you use After Effects and have seen Video Copilot's color vibrance. Hey, Increepable Games, just working on some compositing. You're a bit late into the stream, but never too late to watch. We're getting some, we're looking at some cool color stuff here. And anyways, so if you're familiar with color vibrance from Video Copilot for After Effects, this kind of does a similar thing where it gives like, it tints the image, but it does it in a more interesting way. Like some of the highlights are still bright. They still stay kind of bright and white. Yeah. And we can mess around with some effects like the depth, which it's kind of harder to see what it does here. But essentially what it's doing is it's just like some of the deeper colors, it messes with them in just a bit of a different and more interesting way. We've got the saturation, obviously, which, you know, saturates or desaturates the image. You got the value, you know, it's a brightness, and gamma. You know, it's just saturation, value, and gamma, but it basically lets you do some color correcting to your image. So like here, you can see before and after. We've got like a much more intense, cooler blue look. Suffering from dry throat again. All right. So actually, now that we've done that, I actually want to look back at the tint for just a second, because you'll see that things will like work a little bit better here since we're not using such bright values. And then again, we can compress the HDR. And anyway, so those are just some of the color effects. Also, I have an interesting, this one, saturation to black and white. So what this will do, and this is a bit more of a specialty use thing, but if you want to highlight only saturated things, like the glow here in the engines, you can do that. So here's a practical example of that. If I want to apply a glow, we'll do that. If I want to have a glow, and we'll do a soft glow, but I only want it to affect like the really colored parts of the image. Like I want it to be a bright glow that's blue, and I don't want this to glow. In this case, you might say I could just use the threshold, and that's true. But if I want to isolate it by color specifically, what I can do is I can use the saturation value and use this as the intensity, essentially. So what it's going to allow us to do, maybe if I turn off the exposure, I'll use that as not the intensity, the here's how we'll do this. This requires some problem solving. So we're going to use this just to generate a glow that we can add back on top. And what we'll do is we'll use this. We can multiply this on top of the original image like this. You see that? So you see now with this little setup here, because what we're doing is we're using this as a mask for our image. So you can see everything that's not saturated is really dark now. And then we can just take the glow output there, and then we can add it on top of our original image. Yes, Crypto Lego. A lot of people would just use the emission pass, and that is a valid way to do this. But in this case, you might do that. But this is more like if you want to highlight just a super saturated thing, just to give it a super saturated sort of glow, or vice versa. It's just a more specialty use sort of thing, and this is just an example of how you might use it. So, anyways, we can close that. For this scene though, the setup that we've got here, with our vignette and our soft glows and everything else, I think is a good enough setup, and I actually really like it. This I might totally use this I would totally use for a final export. So I think that pretty much covers everything I wanted to talk about. I don't know if there's a lot more to cover. I guess I'll start by just exporting the image, because, you know, it's what I'm going to post later. Yeah, I guess we can start wrapping up. This is the part where a bigger streamer might look through other messages in the chat, but I've kind of been keeping up. I think I've been keeping up okay with the chat, so I don't think there's much of that to do. So if you've enjoyed this, I guess, you know, make sure to like it so other people see it, share it with people. You can subscribe if you want to. If you want to get your hands on these nodes, you can go to the description where there's a link to my website where you can get them. A super helpful tool. You can see it gave us this image, and it's been giving me like most of the compositing that I've got for like renders on my Instagram page, especially recently, like all the spaceship stuff. Other than one animation, but we're going to talk about how to do that in a different time in the future. But yeah, you can go to my description, to the link in my description to check this out. Later, I'll have a link in the description to this ship if you want to buy it and use it for your own renders as well. And you can go and check out some some of Alexander's other models because they are really, really good. If you make a lot of Star Wars related content, especially. And yeah, so thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been a fun experience. I think I might try to do more streams in the future. I do have socials. I'm new to the streaming thing. Forgive me. I should probably plug that too. You can follow me on Instagram at real.christopherf. Yeah. All of my socials I think are linked in the description as well. Let me see. Let me see if I have them linked. I do. I have my Instagram linked in the description. I don't really use anything else. My Twitter is realcfraser, I think. You can follow me there. I don't tend to tweet much, but yeah. Oh, my Instagram isn't. It should be under where there's store and buy me a coffee. It should be under that. Oh, can you not get to my actual Instagram account from that link? Ah, that's because that is not my Instagram handle. I don't know why it's not typed in right. But that's my old Instagram handle. Okay, hold on. Let me edit this. That was my old Instagram handle. It is now, while I'm pasting in the new link. Not undo changes. Why did you do that? Pasting the new link. Paste. Save. I think now if you go down to the description, it's maybe. Oops, I have to get back to my stream now. I think now if you go to the link, yeah, Hyper put it in the chat as well. That's it. Also, hi Hyper, you just said you didn't talk much. That is a-okay. I'm glad you've been watching. Yeah, so that's basically my only social. Or you can go to my ArtStation. I'm just Christopher Fraser on ArtStation. I could probably put that in the description too. But yeah, on Instagram I will reply to you. Is that you that just messaged me? I just got that notification, so I think I will respond to that after the stream. Yep. Cool. I think that covers everything. Have I missed anything important? Is there something that people are like wondering that I have not addressed that I need to address? Because I feel like I do that a lot. I did just forget to plug my own socials. Yeah, make sure to go check out the make sure to go check out my website, store.christopherfraser.net. That URL may change in the future, but for now it's that. There definitely should be a link to that in the description. Yeah, there is. So you can go there and see my planet shader and the compositing nodes that you see here, planet textures, my pyro shader, all of that good stuff. And yeah, Hyper, make sure to rewatch this video. There's a lot of cool stuff we covered, and yeah. So anyways, yeah, thank you everyone so much for tuning in. This is so far, you know, it may not be a lot in terms of view count, but this has been the greatest response I've gotten in a live stream, and it's been really cool being able to talk to you all in real time too, which I never get to do. I've never gotten to do that before. So I think I'm going to be doing this more in the future. Thank you, Crypto. I'm pretty happy with my planet shader, and people have been doing some really cool stuff with it. Yeah. Oh, you used it for a Mars shot. I'd love to see that. Send that to me or something. Send that to me, link it, put it in the comments somewhere. I'll watch that. And when will I live stream next? That is a good question. Hopefully soon. Probably Sunday morning maybe, or next Wednesday evening. I haven't decided on a consistent schedule, but that's when those are generally good times for me to live stream. I'm gonna do some research into when good live streaming times will be for just everyone in general. So yeah, that's it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope to see you all in the next live stream. Yeah. Standard time, I don't know when. No, morning PST. I don't know when that is standard time. Morning, 10 o'clock, 10, 11-ish maybe, PST, which is something standard time. I don't know what. I'll put out on social and on YouTube if I decide on a more consistent time, and I'll put out stuff before I stream next time. So yeah. I should be just about ending. So thank you, everyone. I'll get to whatever I need to get to, messages and stuff. Oh, it's 10 a.m. for you right now. Interesting. Well, thank you for tuning in first thing in the morning. All right. Well, I guess I'll just do the standard outro. Make sure thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe so that you'll be notified of the next video when it comes out. Turn on notifications, whatever. Check out my website, store.christopherfraser.net. It will be linked in the description. Make sure to get my advanced compositing nodes because it will allow you to make awesome renders like this look even more awesome. And yeah, be more exceptional. And I'll see you all next time. Yeah, I will not be able to reconnect. I don't care. OBS, let me stop this